Hello and welcome to the How to Travel Vegan podcast. I'm your host, Tom Simak, and today we're interviewing the alternative travelers. Welcome to another episode that is jam-packed with gems. I hope everyone is doing well and staying safe. I'm currently in Victoria, which is about to undergo or is currently undergoing stage 4 lockdown to tackle the rising cases. So staying indoor, although I will miss the sun, will hopefully improve our situation. But before we get into today's episode, I have a really exciting announcement. And that is that we're going to be saying goodbye to the How to Travel Vegan podcast. Now, not the show, but the actual name. We're going to go through a rebrand. So as of next week, it'll be the Plant Paradigm Podcast. I'm really excited to share this new show and concept with everyone. The reason being is because we want to showcase more of what plants can do. So plants can affect our health, the planet, and the environment and other beings so much and in such a positive way that it's time to really shift our perspective and utilizing all that they can offer. Instead of being just traveling vegan, which is quite a niche genre, I guess, and we will still be doing that content. So if you're a long-time listener, do not worry. We're still going to be covering destination reviews, but we will have really strict guidelines with that. I have to actually have eaten there myself, just so I know or we know how it actually functions, making sure that it is actually the top place you can eat that will offer plant-based foods, that has an environmental business model, and that will satisfy your soul. As for the Plant Paradigm podcast, this is the exciting part. It's going to focus on more educational content. This will be dialogues with amazing people that are having positive effects on our civilization. That could be from influencers, nutritionists, climate change experts, activists, scientists, conservationists, and so forth. Really, it's going to be anyone who's helping us achieve a green future. This will include monologues with a bunch of topics that we're passionate about, more on like an information piece. That could be talking about new studies, greenhousing, ecotourism, climate action, eating plant-based, and different little tips and tricks. Those will be slightly shorter form. That's basically it. That is the announcement. So keep an eye out from a week from now. I'm actually going to do the official announcement, and the logo change and name change will be next Thursday. So definitely super excited about that. And I hope you are too. Okay. Now on to today's episode. We're chatting with the amazing Sam and Veren. They run a blog over at alternativetravelers.com. They're all about doing things a little differently. After spending 2 years living in Spain, they wrote an amazing book about Madrid vegan eats and are now back to full-time traveling whilst being digital nomads. Obviously, this has come to a little bit of a pause during the COVID situation. Through their blog, they share their knowledge on vegan food whilst traveling, house sitting, and sustainable travel. The key topics in today's episode will be house and pet sitting, being a digital nomad, traveling as a couple, slow travel, bad travel mistakes, and feeling at home while being away. I hope you enjoy our conversation. I definitely did. And without further ado, I will see you on the other side. Veren and Sam, welcome to the podcast. How are you guys going?
Good. Thanks so much for having us.
Welcome. You're absolutely welcome. So from our conversation, you guys are in New York right now during the COVID thing that's happening. That's right, yeah?
Yeah. Well, we're in New York State, so we're not in New York City. We're in Buffalo, New York, which is
that's like Niagara, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's like Canada is right there. It's across the border with Canada, but the border's closed. So it's very weird to see that. Like we could not go there if we wanted.
Really? So there's people waiting there being like, no, you can't come here?
No, that would be really intense. No, it's just, there's a bridge that goes there from Buffalo and it's closed down to traffic that's not like commercial traffic. So it's just like empty. So it's very strange to see. Yeah. No, we actually thought of going back to New York City because that's like kind of our home base, kind of when we're not traveling. And our friends and family are there and stuff like that. But when we had to make the decision of what to do, it was still like COVID hotspot. So
Yeah, right.
we were like, maybe that's not the best choice. And we didn't have anywhere to stay there either. So it was just like, it doesn't make sense to go somewhere we're going to be locked down.
Yeah, for sure. How long were you guys traveling around before you had to find a home base? Like, it was a few years, surely.
Yeah. So well, it's kind of like truncated into various parts because we originally started house sitting in 2016, and we were doing that for like 9 months in the US. And then we moved to Spain for a couple of years, and we were living there, like rent an apartment, everything. Like we were living there as expats basically. And then in 2018, we went back to full-time house sitting. So this iteration, yeah, it's been like a couple of years.
That's awesome. And there's so much I want to get into. First, I know just from reading like your blog and stuff like that. So you guys are called the Alternative Travelers. Where did that name come from?
I think you can answer that one, Veren.
Yeah, I think the idea behind it was that already with our life at that point after we met, we knew we wanted to live in an alternative way and just always looking for alternatives to the conventional ways of living. And that's how we connected on a lot of things when we first met, and then decided that, we want to try to find a way out of New York City, but we don't have any money. So are there any alternatives, quite literally? And then from there, we were just like, well, what's something that income, I can't say the word encapsulates. There we go. Encapsulates
You said it. Yeah, there you go.
The what we're about. And that's what we came up with eventually once we started house sitting, and thought, well, maybe we should start a blog to kind of explain to people what we're doing right now. And that's when we decided we had to come up with a name.
Yeah. I think we wanted it to be, when we were talking about it, we wanted it to be something that we could grow with. So we always wanted to talk about house sitting, but we knew we didn't want to only talk about house sitting. And we didn't only want to talk about vegan travel. We kind of wanted to talk about the various ways that we were living and traveling alternatively. So and it's really worked well, actually, because I know coming up with a name is so hard.
Yeah.
Where like people agonize over it for so long, and there's all these things like, don't put traveler in your name because it's so overdone, or don't do this or don't do that. And I like it still 4 years later because it has grown with us, and what we're doing is always going to be about looking for alternatives, whether it's, a vegan lifestyle, traveling more sustainably. House sitting is very much not the norm, being a digital nomad, even as, high profile as it can kind of seem, it's definitely not the norm. And when we're in one place, we're aware of that even more, I think, because it can be easy to be connected with people online and think there's like, so many digital nomads out there, and there are for sure, but then you're like in one place and you're meeting people and you're like, yeah, no, most people don't do this.
Yeah, it's like you get stuck in the world and you think, what do you mean you never heard of a digital nomad? Like that's like what everyone does in your circle, and you don't realize that Joe down the street hasn't even heard of those two words put together.
Joe down the street would definitely not have heard of that.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you started house sitting 4 years ago. I didn't even know that was a thing. But for someone who doesn't really know what that is, I've touched on it once, like a while back with another episode. Can you explain what exactly house sitting is?
Yeah. So like very succinctly, it's just taking care of other people's houses and pets. And in the way that we do it is in exchange for accommodation. So there's like two different types of house sitting, basically. There's like paid house sitting, and like people will have like house and pet sitting because pets are usually involved, like 95+% of the time there's a pet. And
paid tends to be local. That's the key thing. Because there's no, and whereas what we do, the travel somewhere, stay at someone's place while they're on vacation and take care of their pet, that's the incentive. You don't really have that incentive as a local house sitter. So, for example, in New York City, there's lots of people who get paid to house sit, but they need to get paid because they're already living there. There's no, oh, wow, I have a free place to stay in New York when I pay my rent already.
Yeah, so they're like pet sitting businesses. Yeah, well,
which is not the same, not what we do. What we do is we use house sitting as a way to save on accommodations, and then in exchange, those people are trying to save on their pet sitting, because to pay for a pet sitter for 2, 3 plus however many weeks, it just gets really expensive. Yeah. Most people wouldn't be able to afford it.
For sure. What can you talk us through? Because the first time you ever house sat, how was that? How did that go through? Were you really nervous?
Yeah, I think it helped that we had done house sitting for our friends and family before we started house sitting for like people that we connected with online. So that really helped. And we both obviously love animals. So that helped. Like we had confidence in our skills. It's not like we were like never taking care of an animal before. We both grew up with pets and stuff. So that definitely helped. We were fully confident in that. And it was a process. And we always try to tell people that, because I think a lot of people think that they're going to sign up for a house sitting website and they're going to get a house sit tomorrow or something like that.
In like a chateau in France or something. Like there's just these people waiting to just give their house to strangers,
Yeah. Whereas like we were very methodical about it. We wanted to try it out to see if like this was a thing we could entertain or if we even liked it. So, we just applied to long-term house sits in the US. We were living in New York at the time, and we ended up connecting with this guy in Salt Lake City. And I think you asked like was it nervous? Like, were we nervous? Right? Is that what you asked?
Yeah.
Yeah. We had a Skype interview with him on New Year's Day, and that's
very official. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, we always video with someone before we house it for them.
Is there a reason for that? Or is that like the plan to do it, or like, sorry, not plan, necessary? Like, are you obligated to do that, or is that just how you like to meet them?
No, it was. Let's be real. It was my idea. I was like, I don't know this person. I want to see their face. I trust my read a character. I have a lot of confidence in my ability to read somebody. So I need to be in a situation where I either meet them in person or I see their face while I talk to them.
Yeah.
And if they screw you over, you can be like, I know what you look like, bro.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Well, and that was the thing, like we video chatted with him, and we connected immediately. He was very personable. He had also worked in customer service for a long time. So he also had a very good read of character. And he was like, I think you guys would be great. This is great. Let's do it. Because, and we, since then, we've always done videos, except for like maybe once or something.
For like a friend.
Yeah.
That was the exception. So we already knew them, kind of thing.
But yeah, we learned that a lot of house sitters do this as well. Once we then like got more into the house sitting community, we learned that a lot of long-term and people that do this kind of house sitting do also do videos beforehand as like a, what's it called? Yeah, just like as an initial regular thing.
Conversation / interview. Because in a way, I mean, we try to treat it like a job. And so we kind of think of it as an interview. So it's a friendly thing. There's a casual element to it. But then it's also a huge responsibility. So we want to make sure we're on the same page with people, and having a live conversation on some level we think is really helpful. We want to definitely stress, while it is common, I don't even know if common is the right word. A lot of people do it, but it's not the norm. There will be people who want to just confirm us through the website without even having a conversation. Be like, hey, we'd love for you guys to come these dates. Let us know if you can. And no initiation of conversation. So it's something that we tend to initiate almost always.
So you have people who want to give you their house to sit, reach out to you as well as you reaching out to them.
Yeah, well, now that we've been doing it for so long, we come up in like, the top house sitters.
You get reviews. There's native reviews to the system. So it's most people on there, I'm sure there's a huge swath of people who have maybe a couple of reviews. But then once you start, if you're more into it and you really do it regularly, you start kind of seeing there's a smaller contingent of people who have multiple reviews. And I think for people who want to look for assurance in that they can get someone they can trust, I mean, it's reviews. It just comes down to reviews. So that's another angle we could get into.
Yeah.
If that's a conversation you want to have about that. But yeah, because we have a lot of reviews, so this is not a lot of people think they'll sign up for house sitting and people will just message them. And unless your location is really prime for them, for the most part, that doesn't happen when you're a newbie.
Yeah, it only started happening to us, I would say, in the last year. And it's never worked out, honestly, because people that will just send us a message and they, when we contact someone about a house sit, we personalize the message and, we read their listing, obviously, and, personalize it like you would a cover letter. And usually when we get contacted, the people are just like, hey, do you want a house sit? Like, and it's usually for dates that we aren't even available. And we have our calendar filled out on the website we use, Trusted House Sitters. And so they just clearly didn't look at our profile, which we're just like all about the equal exchange kind of thing. So we want someone to care, we're, going to take the best care possible of someone's house and pets. And all we want in return is just, obviously we're getting the free accommodation, but we want to feel that connection, we're being appreciated for the work that we're doing, because people couldn't, if you're going away for several months, you couldn't pay to have your dog taken care of. You could, but it'd be really expensive, or they'd have to go to a dog kennel and it'd be it's disruptive for them. So we really believe in how important house sitters are, and we feel strongly about making sure that both sides are on the same page about it.
Yeah, so you've clearly said no to a bunch of requests. Can you talk us through how exactly the dialogue would go between you reaching out to someone and saying, okay, you see this listing on Chestnut House Sitters, or you said something like that?
Yeah, it's called Trusted House Sitters.
Trusted House Sitters.
Yeah.
So you see a listing, you're like, this person's got a dog and a cat, whatever, these dates fit you, it's 30 days, and you would just reach out to them like, hey, what would you say?
Yeah, we would just respond and be like, why we want the house sit, I guess. If we're already in the area or whatever, then we'll address their needs that they have put in the listing. And then we'll close off with a invite for a video. I think that's right, Veren.
Yeah. Based on the listing, we, if there's points in their listing where they say, we like to do X thing, and we happen to too, we like to touch on that. It's a point of connection. If they're really into this, or they came from this place, we want to always, we want something that's a good fit, but it's also fun to just have a really cool connection with somebody. So if we can do anything to kind of show that we're interested in them as people and not just the exchange, I think that also helps too. So it's usually based on the information they give. We make sure to tell them what we can offer them as house sitters as well. And we highlight certain things. So granted, they'll have depends on the house sit listing. They might have, a few sentences information, or they might have many paragraphs. And we want to show that we read it. We want to show that we understand what they're asking for, because homeowners, we pick a lot of home and pet owners' brains. One of their biggest complaints is that a lot of house sitters just will be like, I want a house sit for you. New York City sounds amazing. I love going to New York City. I've been wanting to go there ever since I was born, or whatever, and they're like, no, these are people. You need to approach them like people and have try to open up something, say what kind of pitch basically, and then say, hey, let's have a conversation. That's more or less the process that we go through.
Yeah. It's a lot like Veren said, applying for a job in a lot of ways.
That's awesome. And I know I've learned from experience that it might not always be sunshines and rainbows. And there's animals I've had to look after that take different types of medication, and they won't eat if you're not standing there. So it's definitely responsibility on your part. And I just want to clear that because a lot of people are listening and they're like, oh my God, this sounds like a dream. What, they're going to house me for free and their fur babies in there? Like, that is insane. What are some things that you would say is really important to be mindful of? Maybe some mistakes that you've learned or things like that.
Yeah, I really thank you for highlighting that for sure, because we always try to do that as well. Because, as you already said, people get wind of house sitting. They're like, oh my God, but it's a huge responsibility and people really need to understand that. So, yeah, what things do people need to keep in mind? There's a lot, obviously.
I'm just trying to make sure we're not all over the place because we have so much to say about this stuff all the time.
Be all over the place, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Great. I think one of the biggest things that I think is important, like probably the main caveat, you got to love animals. And maybe you can go down to like animals at a minimum, but I can't imagine anybody doing this and saying, oh, you sound like a great pet sitter. I'm like, yeah, oh, by the way, I don't really like animals, but I'll take great care of your pets. You know what I mean? Number one importance to pet owners is that you like pets. So we'd have to say coming into this, you need to kind of on some level be an animal lover. It can't just be about saving money. That's a huge factor. It's something that motivates us to do it as well. And it's part of our our strategy to maintain our lifestyle or subsidize our lifestyle. But I just know so many people who want to give it a try and be like, I don't really like animals. Do you think I'm like, people are going to pick up on that. They want their animals to be loved. They're like little children, Yeah, and so that you need minimum. And there's a whole bunch more things we could go into. But I think anyone who's interested should know on some level they need to like animals, but liking animals isn't enough either. You also need to have some pet care experience.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah, because of course, obviously your audience, like listening, vegans, probably like most of them love animals, I would guess.
We know some vegans that don't.
That's true. Yeah.
But it's okay.
There's outliers. It's okay. No judgment.
No judgment.
But if you want to be a pet sitter.
But yeah, you got to have a pet care experience too. And if you don't, you can get it, very easily volunteering at a shelter, you got to start somewhere. So yeah, that's very important. And also, that's why we feel that having the video chat with the home and pet owner beforehand is super important, because like you mentioned, animals have all different wide variety of needs, and some need meds and some this or that. You really got to have that conversation to ask those kinds of questions, because in a listing someone could be like, yeah, my dog takes meds. But then it's one thing to learn if they need medication every several hours.
And where you have to apply it.
Yeah, if it's very difficult to give it to them.
Or up their butt. It's
have you had to do up the butt to have you had to do that?
No, but you
I've had to pull things out of an animal's butt, but that's about it.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
He was the sweetest dog ever, but he was having trouble going to the bathroom. I think he ate a rope or something.
Thanks for that image. I really appreciate it. On the topic of the animals, so there's dogs, cats. Do you look after any other creature?
It's mostly dogs and cats.
Birds we did once.
Yeah, we did parrots once, and that's because Veren grew up with parrots, so he had parrot experience.
The irony is that they hated me but loved Sam.
Yeah, they didn't like men. So I got to get close with the parrots. One of them would just sit on my shoulder and go around. They were 35 years old, because parrots can live super long.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know.
Yeah, it was crazy. That was really interesting experience. And yeah, that's why it's so important to ask questions, because people don't realize, they think it's, fun to take care of a bird, but people don't realize how loud birds are and how messy birds are. So
they shit all over the place.
Yeah.
They shit everywhere. If you don't have a situation in place for them, you're just going to have shit everywhere.
Clearly there's a lot of poo involved in house sitting.
Yeah. a lot of poo. Yeah. You got to be okay with dealing with poo.
Obviously. Yeah.
But go ahead. Sorry.
Sure. I was I've cleaned up pee, I've cleaned up vomit, I've cleaned up poo from carpets, and and totally with birds, we have cockatiels, and they 7:15. You will hear them every single day, 365 days a year, and it's something. I don't know. No comment.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed taking care of the parrots, but it was then I enjoyed leaving the parrots too, I think.
Yeah, they could be pretty loud.
Yeah, but they were fun. They were super fun. They were super fun. And then we took care of like a weird albino amphibian frog thing, but that was like, he was in a tank, and that was...
I wish I could say what this thing was.
I have no idea.
It's very white with like these little antenna kind of things. It's such a strange looking creature.
Yeah, but
no snakes or anything like that?
No snakes. I've never seen that kind of stuff. I see very rarely on house sitting sites. More common would be like bunnies and guinea pigs and stuff like that. Sometimes I see farm animal house sits come up, but that's like another level that we're just not trying to get into. I feel like I would be interested in that if it was more of like a work away situation, because farms are generally a lot more work. So, when it's a work away, you're getting your food also covered. But I mean, a lot of people like farm sitting. It's just we prefer to be in urban areas anyway. So, but they're out there too.
And have you found that you can house sit basically anywhere? Like, I know we've got, it's pretty like good in Australia. I know it's pretty good in the US. Is it good anywhere else?
Yeah, that's a great question.
I was going to say the UK is a great place. I mean, it's so popular there. The website that we use is based out of the UK. It's a British company.
Yeah.
And so it's huge there. It's so huge. Like we one time decided, hey, just to give an idea of how many there are house sits, we were like, we were living in Spain at the time. So in between my job, I had the summer off because I was teaching. We were like, let's try the UK. Mostly Sam's idea because she recognized this. And we were able to pretty much for 7, almost 8 weeks, line up house sits back to back. Like we had no gaps.
Yeah, and these were shorter house sits. Now we do long-term house sits, but at the time, these were like, we had a week there, 10 days in London, 2 weeks in Glasgow. Yeah. Like we just lined it up back to back, and we kept lining it up while we were there. There was never any fear that there wasn't going to be there was just so many house sits, and it's so easy to get around there. But it is a great question because it really does depend on the place. Like like you said, it's really popular in Australia. Like we'd love to go there and do like house sitting for like a year someday. We know people that have done that, just house sit around, because obviously it's such a massive place, and coming from here, like we'd want to spend a lot of time. So New Zealand also popular. The US, Canada, Mexico is growing among like expats that might have like a second house in Mexico and like another one in Canada or the US or something like that. In Europe, it's popular in Spain among expats as well, but we've done it all around Europe, like Spain, Italy, Germany. There's a lot in like the Netherlands. We haven't done it there yet. But it's not that popular in like Latin America, for example, or
Spain.
What's that?
And Latin America and Spain. Maybe that's something Spain exported into Latin America. I don't know why. It's just not.
Among Spaniards.
Amongst Spaniards. Sorry, I should clarify that.
Yeah.
Amongst Spaniards and people living in Latin America, for the most part, that aren't expats, their house sitting isn't a thing.
Yeah, but even among expats there, I don't think it's like reached. I don't know. It's like, I think these things kind of take time, and then they like, start to expand from there. But and then Asia, we haven't been, but I know some people who have done a lot of house sitting in like Southeast Asia, for example, like Thailand and stuff. It does tend to be very popular with expats because they eventually have to like go home, to visit friends or family, or they want to travel and like take advantage of living somewhere else. So they need someone to take care of their pets and stuff like that. So I don't think we've actually ever, in the UK we house sat for Brits, but like in Spain, in continental Europe, everyone was an expat that we house sat for actually. So I think it's a cultural thing, like Veren said, for a lot of countries. Like even in parts of Asia too, I know like it would be very weird. In Spain, it would be very weird to have like someone you don't know staying in your house.
It's
still
even
weird for a lot of people, regardless.
Like for example, I think it's a very, I guess I can say this for the US. it's very typical to make friends with someone and have them over. You just don't do that in Spain, for example. It's more likely that you go outside and you might never see their home for years being their friend.
Yeah.
So it's just a different thing. Like the home is a very private space. And if you're going to do something with somebody, you go somewhere public.
Yeah. Okay. And I want to touch on the fear that Sam mentioned earlier. So you line up these, I know a lot of them can be spanning from 30 to 90 days or beyond. And there's a lot of them that are a week or under. Then when you're traveling and you're trying to line these up, I want to talk about what happens if one falls through, and have you got like contingency plans that you go to if something like that happens, or like, have you had an experience there? Like if something pulls through, or maybe you couldn't line it up properly, you have like 2 days in the middle, do you get a hotel, or what exactly do you do?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I wish that every house sitter would be thinking about this question before they start house sitting. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't think about it. And with the pandemic situation, everyone's house sit fell through basically because everyone's travel plans were canceled overnight. I mean, there was a small minority of people who their house sits kept going because the people decide to stay abroad or whatever. But everyone that we know, everyone got their house sits canceled, us included. And the contingency plan we always try to have a few, but like the main one would be a solid savings safety net. Like I think that is number one, super, super important because you could have even without a pandemic, cancellations are always a possibility. Someone could get sick, stuff happens
house sitting is not for truly broke backpackers or anyone who wants to be a broke traveler. It's a way to save money while traveling, but you should not be broke. You need a contingency plan. Emergencies happen, cancellations happen. Something can go, we've heard of stuff where someone, the homeowners get sick or halfway have to come home early. I mean, anything can happen.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing is like the house sitting community is like it is a supportive community. So like a lot of people have come through and helped people out. Like when we had our house sit canceled on, when things got really bad here, the guy that one of our house sits had just ended, and then the guy managed to get back, and then our next one was canceled. But so we were trying to figure out what to do, and it was stressful. But the guy we were house sitting for had like an Airbnb apartment in his basement, and it was like empty, obviously, because no one was traveling. So we like worked out a really good rate with him, and so that really worked out. And then other people, people have offered extra rooms or extra whatever to help out the house sitting community, and everyone kind of like banded together. Obviously, these are extenuating circumstances, and I don't think that's something anyone should bank on. Is like, yes, that it's nice to have a supportive community, but I really, again, think it's like super important to have like a safety net of savings. Even like you said, if there's like a gap or something, you want to be able to pay for a place to stay. And I think it's really important to never try to come from a place of like desperation of like that might lead you to a bad situation, which is why, like Veren said, we think it's important to say it's not for people like traveling with $0 in their pocket, It's, I think that like couch surfing and work exchange and that kind of stuff is great, and you can do that in conjunction with house sitting, of course. But if you're traveling with no money at all because you think that you're always going to have a place with house sitting, then I think you probably might end up not in
a few nights on the park bench is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, no one wants that. Exactly. And I mean, the other thing is like, apart from that, you have accommodation covered, but you still got to pay for all your expenses. You still got to pay for your groceries. You want to enjoy the place that you are, eating out, going to attractions, like whatever it is. So you still do, like, your food isn't being covered. So you still do need money regardless, and having a safety net. I know I keep harping on that, but a lot of people, I think, learned that lesson the hard way with the pandemic and finding themselves like shit out of luck. And it was really difficult. And even though it was stressful when we got canceled on, we had that financial safety net to be like, okay, this sucks, but like we can pay for a place right now, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And I always talk about how important it is, even regardless of if you're house sitting, like when you're traveling and crap hits the fan. Like I haven't talked about this in the podcast, but I was actually in Egypt when COVID happened and the country gave us 24 hours to get out of the country.
Jesus,
and that
wow.
meant that we had to
Wow.
book a bunch of new flights, had to sacrifice a bunch of hotel nights and find a way to get from like the bottom of the country to the top where Cairo is. And that, set us back a few $1,000s. But if we didn't have that there, we would have been royally screwed. And I think that's something that regardless of any situation, if you're going overseas, you need that safety net, because when you're somewhere where you don't have a house or people that can support you, like your parents or friends or whatever it is, you're going to get royally screwed. And it's a lesson you don't have to learn because we've learned it for you.
Yeah.
So don't, like, if you don't, I would even go so far as to say, if you don't have a safety net, you shouldn't travel.
No, I agree.
Do a day trip, go camping at a tent when not too much can go wrong. But if you're going overseas to a place that might not have English as a primary language or might be quite far away from home, just go next year, save some money. Can't stress that enough.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, got to be responsible. Travel, we definitely believe in being a responsible traveler. You know what I mean?
Yeah, not just for the environment, but for yourself as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then touching on changing gears to the actual concept of travel, you guys are huge, I guess, promoters of slow travel. Can you explain what exactly that is and the potential benefits that you can experience as a traveler to the environment and etc.?
Veren, this is your fave.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the main idea is to think about slow travel as a way to just try to slow down your travel, because there's so many different ways to do it and it doesn't look the same for everyone. But an example I like to use is, okay, if you're a person who wants to do a Euro trip and you're going to go to Europe for 2 weeks and you're going to try to go to a different city every couple of days, first of all, to me, that sounds like a horrible experience. I would never want to do that. You couldn't pay me to do that. But two,
we're looking at Kentucky travelers right now.
Yeah.
Experience it once and get it over and done with, and then
yeah.
I also don't see the point in that. I mean, so I have all my personal things that hang-ups about that, but I want to emphasize, instead of doing a couple different cities every couple of days for 2 weeks, why don't you just go to one city and stay there? I mean, I think it's a philosophical kind of argument or a challenge, I guess. Why do you travel in the first place? If you're going to just zoom around and everything's a blur, what are you really experiencing? What are you really seeing? So again, I could go so much into it, but I want to get a concise idea of, you want to take this travel that's very hurried, where you have a whole litany of things to do all day. And instead of, doing a million things every day and going to a million cities, instead you're in one place for 1 week. Could be an example. For a couple weeks is a good example we like to give for American audience, because they get 2 weeks vacation. They want to cram everything in. We go stay one place and try to maybe do something every other day. And don't just be getting up at 8 in the morning and crashing at 8 at night because you're just one thing. Oh, we got to do this. Then we got to do this, and checking off a list. And I'm like, what are you experiencing there? So I would argue, try to just slow things down. Try to go somewhere and just have a coffee or tea, whatever you drink, and just try to settle into the rhythm of a place. You don't really get to experience a place in 24 hours, So we're very much about wanting to slow down our travel.
Yeah, I think it comes down to, like, I always like to bring it back to that it's a mindset, not necessarily a length of time in a place, because you can adopt obviously it is, like Veren said, slowing down your travel, trying not to just cycle your way through a laundry list of sites and destinations and whatever. But, a lot of people are working with limited vacation time, and you can still adopt a slow travel mindset, even if you don't have a ton of time. Like, you could slow travel, and if you only have a weekend away, it's just about not packing your itinerary full with a billion different things to do. It's more kind of just taking your time and being open to maybe what comes your way. I know we just like to meander around a city and kind of see what happens basically and see where it leads us. And it allows us to really get into conversations with locals or cafe owners or restaurant owners or people on the street or whatever arises, public transportation. Having a conversation that's something we always remember versus like, you know, taking a picture in front of whatever landmark. So yeah. And like you said about the different benefits, I think, yeah, there's so many benefits. I mean, for like we're already talking about, I think you have a richer experience and understanding of a culture when you slow it down. I mean, you can learn about a culture obviously through going to museums or taking like a walking tour or doing those things. And I like doing those things too. But I think a lot of people travel to connect with others and connect with another culture. And you can really do that from observing and taking your time. So that's like one benefit, personal benefit, is I think you'll take more away if you try to be a little slower and more mindful about things. And it's also obviously way better for the environment as well if you're, you know, going to one place and staying there for the entirety of your trip, as opposed to, I know so many people, I mean, we saw it when we were living in Spain, you know, people would fly somewhere for a weekend or they would come to Europe from wherever and fly somewhere every couple of days. And obviously that has a huge impact. So it's, yeah, if you're slowing things down, you're not flying everywhere so quickly. Also, doing things like just walking around. That's like the slowest pace you could go versus, I don't know about Australia, but I know in the US, people are very used to like hopping in a lift or like a ride share to get to their next place, like, and stuff, instead of like, you know, it's the journey, not the destination or whatever. As cliche as that sounds.
No, that's totally. And a nice way to put it is there's more than the Eiffel Tower in Paris. There's more.
Oh my God.
In Rome. Like, and I totally agree. Walking tours are actually the best, but just walking around is just phenomenal because you see things that you don't usually, and you get healthy because if you wear your Fitbit or whatever it is, you're smashing the steps and you're just seeing things you wouldn't otherwise see. And you're seeing cafes that you wouldn't otherwise experience and people. And, you know, you might, of course, be wary because there are parts of traveling overseas that are dangerous and don't walk there. But definitely the experience is totally different. And if you haven't tried it, just try it once. And, you know, you could be that person that needs to do every city in two days and just see that and, you know, get smashed or whatever you got to do to realize how different it could be to then slow travel. And then, because, you know, we're going to live to how long? You can experience all these different things. So if you haven't tried it, try it, please. And it's so much better for the environment. Like you said, you're traveling a lot less and there's just so much more you can see.
Yeah.
But in terms of the actual food portion of things, I know you guys lived in Spain for a while and you've traveled a lot. Do you research where you're going to eat, or do you kind of just go on a wander around the city and just be like, oh, look, that sign's got vegan on it, let's try that out? How do you work that?
Oh my gosh, I research the shit out of things. Like, I love it. It's part of enjoying a place to me because I like to do tons of research and get excited about what I'm going to eat.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, exactly. And we've eaten so much amazing food that way. And I think we have had times when we were like, oh, that says vegan, let's just go eat there. But those experiences are less memorable, I find, than the ones that I'm like, I know that these restaurants are going to be awesome, so I want to prioritize going here. And it's shocking to me. Like, I know not everyone wants to do a lot of research, obviously, but we've heard, like, I've just heard too many times, like, we lived in Madrid and it's an absolute vegan heaven, but too many times people were like, oh, I couldn't find anything in Madrid. And I'm just like, I don't know how that's actually possible. but like maybe they didn't research or they didn't look because like there's not like big signs saying vegan. Like, you know what I mean? I think
it's also Madrid is more unique in its culture in that the spheres of veganism and not veganism don't have a lot of overlap. But I would also argue that, I mean, it's all about your priorities. If you're just eating to live and you just want whatever's convenient, yeah, you might struggle as a vegan in some places. But if you're like, ooh, I want to experience this culture's interpretation of vegan food or what's naturally vegan, it doesn't even take, we do a ton of research. It's kind of what we do. We write vegan city guides. You don't even need to do that much. Yeah. You can just go onto a couple of websites and just, there's almost always something written and you can kind of glean real quick and realize there's about 3 or 4 or 5 places that people really recommend that sound like I shouldn't miss out, the ones that I'm interested in, et cetera. It's not that much work. But if you think you can just walk into any country and get vegan options, it's just like you're going to be in for a big, rude wake-up call.
Well, we also want to just like eat delicious food. So that's why that's super important to us. Like I know for some people it might be less important. Like they're like, I just want to be able to find something vegan. But I'm just like, food is such a big part of travel for us. Like, and Veren said, like, we want to see what traditional food is interpreted vegan, and it's been so cool to see what like vegan entrepreneurs are doing in different cities with little new restaurants and stuff like that. So we want to support those places and eat their food, obviously.
Is it in terms of Madrid, because you spent so much time there, is there a lot of dishes that can be veganized that are traditionally like Spanish dishes?
Yeah, there are definitely.
I would say overwhelmingly most of the vegan food scene is Spaniards. It's people from Spain who are into veganism and trying to make really delicious vegan food. So they take a lot of their favorites and try to veganize them, essentially. It's not, there are times places where you go to visit some countries or some cities and there's clearly like a very international crowd and they have these kind of specific places that just have always, again, hummus. Or, I mean, I love hummus, but it's just, it's always hummus or the same usual tired vegan options, black bean burgers, those kind of things.
Yeah. But so, yeah, in Madrid, there is like, you can get those veganized options at like vegan restaurants, and that's amazing. And people should definitely do that. But you can also like, because you asked what traditional dishes could be veganized, like if you're going into a normal Spanish place, is that what you mean?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely are things. I mean, gazpacho is like, you know, Spain's dish that's vegan. There's other variations of that. I mean, they love bread, tomatoes in a variety of forms. So that's great. And there's different like tapas. It really depends on the region. There's one that I like that was like chickpeas and spinach and paprika normally, and the good thing is that they don't cook with butter at all. They cook with olive oil, so you don't have to worry at all about if something is just vegetables. It's just vegetables. It's cooked with olive oil. Like it's not, butter is not coming into the picture, and they don't put cheese on things. They eat cheese like in a cheese plate, not on things. So that's like completely separate. I mean, it is still very like, a lot of stuff is very meat heavy or seafood heavy, but there's always like, or there's like fried eggplant that's in the south of Spain. There's like sauteed peppers from the north of Spain. Wherever you are, there's definitely a few things that are traditional and vegan, and that's really cool. And then like Veren said, there is a big vegan scene in all of the Spanish cities that we've been to. I think it is because it does have such a meat heavy culture, and because bullfighting and stuff, like the vegan community in Spain is like pretty much exclusively ethically motivated, I would say. So it's like, I think it's starting, but none of the like plant-based.
They don't like so many plant-based people. We've had so many conversations with Spaniards where they're like, what's this plant-based bullshit? What's this about?
I'm just like, I don't care why someone's vegan, but yeah.
Yeah, that's an argument we would make, as a case we'd make. But it was just funny that that's very much their attitude. They're like, what's this plant-based? They want it to always be the animals front and center.
Yeah. So there's like a really strong vegan community there that's always going to like protest. They're always like, that's all they do, always protesting something. And a lot of like community, like vegan potlucks or meetups, because it's such a social culture that like meeting other vegans is really important. So we met a lot of vegans when we were there, and that was really cool. It's very easy to meet other people through the vegan community in Spain. Yeah, we love it
awesome.
there.
And being in Madrid for so long, do you have like a top restaurant or few that are really memorable that you would be like, if you're going here, if you don't eat here, you need to go back?
Oh my God, that's so hard. So hard to say. We actually wrote a whole guidebook on Madrid because there's so much vegan Madrid, because there's so much to say. And I really honestly would ask people what they want to eat, because there's everything there. There's like 5 vegan donut places, like exclusively vegan donut places. There's like there's tapas places, there's fancy dinner places, there's raw places, there's bakeries, there's the best cheesecake ever. It's so hard. It's so hard to choose.
Yeah. Well,
but I would say that people have to try the Spanish tortilla, which is like the Spanish omelet, and it's like traditionally potatoes and eggs, and it's like served at every single bar it's such a typical Spanish dish. And there's a few vegan places that do it, actually a lot of them, but our favorite is this place called Distrito Vegano, and they make an amazing tortilla only on Saturdays, but it's so good. And they have like 3 different kinds. They have the traditional, and they have one
Saturday as well. Okay.
Yeah.
They're serious.
They're so
about
good.
It. It's a process. They've explained it to us. It's a several hour process to make this thing.
Yeah, it's so legit though. It's amazing. The donut place is amazing.
Delicious donuts.
Yeah.
Delicious donuts. Another place, if we had to say, there's so many experiences that are great, but if you want to experience something on a terrace, which is very typical in Spain to like eat outside on a terrace, and not just on the side of the street, because to their credit, it's great. They'll always eat out on a terrace, even if it's on a busy street. To me, I'm like, I don't want to do that. I'd rather go into a plaza. There's a place called Viva Burger, which is it's just got a great veggie burger that they make from scratch, and you can eat out on a terrace, and that's really lovely. But then there's also an experience we had at this place called Landariac, which is a Basque word. And this guy, the Spanish chef dude, he's inspired by the Basque country, and he just makes this experience. It's like a chef just cooking just for you, because he has a bar license, so he can't have wait staff. You go into this tiny little place, and you order food, and he makes it and serves it to you. And it's just an incredible experience.
His food is amazing. Yeah, I would say that people would have to go there. It's incredible food. I mean, and he makes all the Spanish dishes veganized.
He's like a trained chef. So the stuff you go in there, you're going to have is like fancy food, but it's very reasonably priced, and it's like a casual atmosphere. But, he was telling us about some chicken dish and how you have to, like, at different paces of when the tomato sauce is cooking down, you add specific different spices. Like, he's hardcore. He's a trained culinary chef.
His cheesecake is the best we've ever had.
Yes.
It's incredible. So we
love that.
People need to go eat that if they're into cheesecake. Even if you're not, you should eat it. And he was telling us all the process. He told us how long it took. He didn't tell us the process, obviously, but he's such a jolly person. So that's also an amazing experience. Obviously, we could just go on.
There's so much. I was looking at, like, I'm like, oh, Madrid. I feel like I did an episode. I think it was one of my first episodes that I'm looking at it, and there's a few on there that I mentioned so Viva Burger was on there. Delish vegan donuts, Freedom Cakes, Crucina, and Chilling Cafe.
Oh, we love
Chilling Cafe is awesome.
Yeah,
that's the one from memory where you walk in and it's like really reggae vibes. Is that from memory?
It's really
it depends. Yeah, it depends on who's the barista that day.
Really? Okay.
The couple that runs the place has, they have like different tastes.
We're regular. We were regulars there as well, and the couple is Taiwanese couple. They're just so great. I love them for their coffee. And they have some good pancakes and stuff. I love that place. I tend to not recommend it as much, just because I find when people are going somewhere just for a few days, they're like, I want all the Spanish food, but and they don't really have Spanish food because they have like Western. Kind of Asian. Yeah, they have like Western, they have pancakes. I mean, it's all delicious, but just from knowing what people tend to want. But that's an awesome place too. And it's a great place to chill out. And it was the first vegan coffee shop, and one of the first places that was that like coffee shop vibes. Cause like Spain, Madrid now has like a ton of those kind of, third wave coffee shops and stuff. I love coffee, so I'm always looking for good coffee. But when I've moved there, I lived in Spain before Veren and I met in 2013, and there was not a single coffee shop at all. And now, like, there's so many. So
you can get coffee
very
everywhere.
Exciting.
They drink espresso.
Oh yeah, they drink. Yeah,
but the whole coffee shop vibe, that wasn't a thing.
Yeah,
Sam was telling me. Like, you just go to any place and they have coffee. That's not the same as going to a coffee shop.
Yeah, I guess. Well, with non-dairy milk also. But more places, a lot of bars in Spain have soy milk, and that's really awesome. Even like traditional hole-in-the-wall bars that you would never expect have it. So that's really cool.
That's sick. Yeah. And then finishing up on the food topic, I wanted to talk about something we mentioned a few times, but never dove into it. So you mentioned expat and digital nomad a few times. Can you run through what exactly a digital nomad is for those who haven't heard of that concept?
Yeah, definitely. I think very, very quickly, it's just someone who works from their laptop and travels around. They don't have a full-time, they don't rent a place full-time, they're not stationed somewhere, like they don't have a long-term lease or whatever. I think there's various like iterations of this. Like digital nomad is traditionally, I think, not traditionally, I guess there's no real tradition so far, but we think of someone commonly someone that has their laptop, they're working from wherever, and they move around. But I think there's also like location independent is kind of like a part of that. But I think it's a little different in that people who are location independent aren't necessarily nomads. They work from their laptops and they could be nomads if they wanted, but they're living in one place. Like maybe they're an expat, maybe they're a nomad, whereas like an expat is someone who's like, I'm living in this country, like this is my new home kind of thing, as opposed to like moving around more like a nomad does. So yeah, we can work from our laptops anywhere. And yeah.
So basically like what people are doing now with COVID, which is working from home, you just take that and you move around a little bit. And obviously doing that, you have to allocate a portion of your time to work and a portion of your time to actually exploring the destination to make sure you're not just looking at four walls, which kind of look same in Rome and in New York and in Melbourne. They all, it's still four walls. How did you find the balance, or are you still finding the balance between work and exploring?
Yeah, I think it's a continual process, finding the balance with digital nomadism, or I guess life in general. Yeah, what would you say, Veren?
I think, it's harder to stick to those. You kind of have to set up those boundaries of like, this is how much work we need to do. We do work for ourselves, so there's some flexibility with that. But a lot of times people think we come to visit that we're just on vacation or something. So you kind of have to just really set up those boundaries with yourself and also with other people to be like, during these time periods, I'm working. I need to work. I can't just stop working, And we plan to travel and sightsee and do things. And that's where the slow travel element comes in. So if we know we're somewhere for 2 months, just a lot less, urgency in what we have to go visit and see, So the longer we can stay somewhere, the easier it is for us to see things at a much slower pace, still have our nice work day, still have our routines and stuff that helps us, have an enjoyable lifestyle and balance.
Yeah, we're all about routine, and I think that really helps.
What's your routine while you travel? Like, do you have like a set thing, like you're still waking up at 8 a.m., things like that?
Well, neither of us are morning people, so I think it's really.
So the answer is no.
No. Well, it depends. It depends. Yeah, we still get up, but I just really don't like that's why I want to do this lifestyle, because I don't want to wake up to an alarm, and I don't want to do anything before I've had my coffee. Well, I work out before having coffee, but that's another story. But yeah, well, it kind of like ebbs and flows, I think, depending on where we are. Like, for example, right now we're in like, it's still not lockdown mode in the US, but it's not free travel mode, that's for sure. So we're just kind of like, okay, now is like work time. We're just going to like keep doing our thing, blah, blah, blah. And then like whenever travel becomes a thing again, then I think we're going to work a lot less, so it kind kind of like depends on the situation and where we are. And we have our routine of like, we try to work between,
the usual work hours that most people do.
I'm very adamant about like, I'm not trying to work into like 11 at night kind of thing. And we might go out and explore something in the evening or go out to dinner, or we're flexible. Like if there's something going on a Wednesday, then we might like take off or something like that, So we're super flexible, and like, or we might be like, okay, we're only going to be here a certain amount of time, so we're not going to work. Like when we're in New York visiting friends and family,
that's our vacation time, really.
Like we're not working when we're there, because we're always in smaller spaces or staying with people or whatever. Our priority is visiting people, so we're always bouncing all over the place. So it is kind of flexible, and we want it to be flexible. Like that's, why we're, I guess, doing this. But I do know that some nomads will like, be in one place and working in that place, and then they'll like take 3 months off or something like that. And we're kind of like more continuous, I guess, but we're, free to like whatever, like next weekend, we're going to not work on Friday and go camping, stuff like that. So it all depends, basically, is
basically
short answer.
Yeah. And when you're traveling, there's a lot of difficulties that happen, and that could be, time zones screwing with your circadian rhythm, different foods. Like obviously when you're traveling around, cause like a lot of gut issues or whatever it may be. How do you stay healthy whilst on the road?
That's a great topic. We literally just recorded a podcast episode on that.
I didn't ask that question because I saw that.
No. We recorded it because so many people ask us the question.
Yeah.
But well, Veren is the like health person. Not that I'm not healthy, but Veren is like the leader in this space.
He's ripped, swole, got the biceps bulging.
I'm actually, you can't tell in this angle, but I'm actually taking up the entire room. So
whoa, that's crazy, man.
Oh my God.
So I think it's the routine. If we're going from one place to another, there might be some disruption for a couple of days. House sitting makes it pretty easy. You maybe have like half a day's worth of disruption. But for the most part, once we're able to settle into a place, we have minimal disruption, and we're able to get back into 5-day work week kind of routine. And we work out at least 5 days a week, 6 days. We're also really active while we travel, and we try to eat 80 to 90% of our food at home. So that way we can kind of know what we're eating, what we're consuming, because we love to eat out, and we want to eat out, and we want it to be indulgent. We don't want to go out to have a smoothie. Maybe someday, if we're ever filthy rich, I always joke that this will be a marker. I'll be like, then I'll have smoothies for breakfast and a rice bowl at this place, because I can just pay to eat out constantly. But since we're budget travelers and we're trying to be health conscious, we just tend to eat mostly at home and really simply, and make sure that we're, active, physically active.
And then when we go out, we just go order a box of donuts like we did last weekend.
We ate pizza and donuts. Just side by side.
We just kind of like build being active into our routine, our daily life. Like Veren said, we work out 5 days a week, and then like a lot of, like we were already talking about, a lot of enjoying a place for us is active, like walking around, or we love biking.
We were just last Saturday we biked, I don't know how many miles.
20 miles.
Several hours of biking. Just
that kind of stuff is how we enjoy a place, and that definitely helps. Also, you mentioned like circadian rhythms. Like sleep is super important to us. So and you asked about if we get up early. We make sure to get our 8 hours or whatever. We like to wind down we love to read, so we'll go to bed and read before we go to sleep. That really helps us have like a restful night of sleep. Because I know I have conversations with people I know about this continuously. Like they're like, I don't know why I can't sleep, but they're in the bed with their phone or like laptop, or that's not good sleep hygiene. And obviously I'll do that like it's not like I'm not that disciplined that I keep it in like a locked box or something, but I try really hard to not just to wind down and to sleep and to keep with our routines. And I know a lot of people think that routine is like,
like a chore.
like a chore, or like you're being like, why would you be a nomad just to have a routine kind of thing? But it like helps us focus on the things that we want to focus on and put our energy towards the things that we want to put our energy towards. And I mean, there's tons of books on the, importance of routine and stuff like that. So like for creatives and just people in general, because it like when you have your routine, it enables your mind to be free to think of other things and be creative and not be just thinking about the little decisions that you have to make every day. Like, oh, when am I going to get up tomorrow? When am I going to go to sleep? What am I going to eat? Like all those little things, if you just kind of streamline your routine, it enables you to enjoy a place more. And obviously, we're flexible. We'll go out to eat and enjoy that. And I think it all comes down to just like making it a part of being healthy a part of your lifestyle, as opposed to like, I know I should be healthy, so like, trundle along, but like make it something you enjoy and that you feel good about.
For sure. And especially if you're traveling, if you're doing like a week trip, you don't need to find a routine. But if you're going for months at a time or weeks or however long, you need one, because otherwise that you could also feel very homesick without a routine, because you're like, I just, for anyone who's gone away for 2 weeks, you're like, I just kind of want to go home and go to my local cafe and see Bob that makes my coffee really good. And having a routine, I think, is a really good way to tackle it. And what you touched on is really, really important. Being a bit flexible, of course, because, life isn't really always black and white like that. But it's a really good way to tackle the want to go home syndrome, I guess. I don't have a name for it.
Yeah, I think that's such an important point to make, because it is just such a different thing being a nomad versus going on you can throw everything out the window for a week and that's totally fine. You don't go to the gym, don't work out, eat out 3 meals a day, and that's totally fine. You'll be fine. But if you do that like for years, I don't think you would maybe feel very good or feel at your best, I guess, that you could be. So I think that's important to bring into it. Yeah.
I know routine for me helps me feel grounded. And it's also our way of bringing home wherever we are. Because when we travel, we predominantly house sit. So it's other people's homes. So how do you make that other people's houses feel like your home? And that's where, something as simple as what time we get up, or reading before bed, or coffee together in the morning, those little routines are absolutely, they enhance everything. It's not a drag or something that you don't want to do. I think it definitely allows us to more be engaged when we travel.
For sure. And one thing I did forget to ask when we're talking about travel is, has your suitcase over the years changed? What have you added in or taken out that you felt like wasn't really benefiting you guys in how you travel?
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, I think it's a constant process, and we travel with very little clothes. Most of the stuff that we carry is like gear, I guess. And like, just, I mean, now we got the microphone, just stuff like that we need for what we do. But we're not traveling in just like a 30-liter backpack either, because we do have stuff that's just like bulky. And because we travel full time, we're not only traveling with sandals, like we got to have a couple pairs of shoes, and that kind of adds up. So we do have, each of us will have like a backpack, and then we have like we normally check a bag, because since we're traveling much slower, it's fine. I don't care about checking a bag. I know some people are adamantly anti-checking, and I was, but we've just realized that there's certain things that we want to carry with us, like
that you can't take as
like a blender.
It's not. I keep
a
saying
hand stick blender. It's like an immersion blender.
You know those type of blenders? It's like a little stick.
No.
And it has a little motor on top. I can go and grab it.
No.
Oh, yeah, I do, but
it comes apart. It packs down to about this.
It's not like we're traveling with a giant blender. Yeah.
It's like blender. Sorry, people think that could be a checked bag.
Yeah, no, it's like you're right.
So
it's
something
it's
like
small, but you can't put it on the plane because
the blade.
I might try to blend someone's face with it.
Yeah, I mean that seems like a
you
weird
won't,
thing.
But you could. Yeah.
I mean, it seems like a weird thing to carry, but it comes down to like what we were just talking about with like staying healthy and stuff, and like we like to have a smoothie like every morning, and not everyone has a blender, obviously. Like we're house sitting, so most kitchens are like full kitchens. One time we even had a place with an espresso maker, and that was amazing.
Oh my God, amazing.
But yeah, it was so cool. Veren used to be a barista, so he could actually use it, whereas I could not. But yeah, I mean, it's a small thing, but it makes a difference like every single day to us. You know what I mean? So those kind of things, we just realized that it's more important to us to just have a small checked bag with that. But yeah, we're pretty very minimal with like our clothing and stuff, and we're always like trying to refine it. Yeah,
just be more efficient. It's not about trying to not take things with you, because if you got to live out of your bags, I mean, we live out of very little.
Yeah, every time we show up to a house, every time we show up to a house that people are like, wait, that's it? Like, and they have like twice as much for their vacation, and we're traveling full time, So I think we've got it down to a pretty good system, and just having the right amount of stuff just for all the different variety of situations that we could get into. Because I know some nomads only travel in like tropical places, because then it like you don't have to carry as much, obviously. You just have a pair of sandals and that's it. But we're not necessarily only going to tropical places. Like we might go somewhere and it's chilly or whatever. So those kind of things do add up with space wise too. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, there's some really good tips. And the blender thing, I think, works twofold. One, being healthy, but two, that's your little touch to feel homey. Because I have a smoothie every morning, and that would mean so much if I could do that overseas. And it's just that little touch that could help you feel really good. Maybe not for short-term travel. If like I was going away for a week, I'd probably buy a smoothie if I had a smoothie place near me. But over time, I don't want to pay $10 for a smoothie every morning. That's just my bank account's going to hate me.
Yeah, we carry a coffee maker too. Espresso. It's an espresso. It's not like a coffee maker. I'm explaining these things really.
Thing or something.
Yeah, It's called an AeroPress, and it's like a little. It's a single serve coffee thing, but you just put the grounds in and then push it down, and it's still pretty small. It's like whatever. But that's really important to me. I love going out for coffee, but again, it's the same thing. Like that would add up pretty quickly. And I like having that routine of like having a coffee at home and, planning out the day, or, if we're going exploring or if I'm working, that's super grounding for me. And we have a coffee together, and that's really nice. So that's, again, it's about like you said, making a place feel like home.
For sure. And on the tail end of the podcast, is there any last words of advice that you might give someone if there's something we didn't touch on, the mistakes you've learned through house sitting or being in the digital nomad, traveling as a couple, like anything, the platform is yours to bestow us upon your wisdom.
Yeah, you go first. Don't do that. First? I saw that you've been talking. You're like, oh wait, now a hard question comes. Let me give it to him.
Open-ended. Well, I think to touch on the traveling as a couple thing, I think that comes down to communication a lot. Just like communicate and that like each other's needs and whatnot. I mean, that's the whole, not to go totally down that topic as a tangent, but just like really communicate with whoever you're traveling with, whether it's like a romantic partner or just a friend. You got to communicate about what you want to get out of the trip or what you want to get out of a specific place. And same with house sitting, communication. It really comes down to communication. I think that's super important in life, and it's unfortunately a skill that's not really taught. It's kind of, we have to learn it and figure it out on our own, but just and communicating when you're in a place too, like we already talked about, communicating with locals, with people. It's all about that human connection. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I was just thinking that I think probably if for anyone who wants to try to be a digital nomad or a house sitter, maybe even full-time, part-time, whatever, whoever wants to try to have more travel in their life, just I think it's really important to understand that everything always looks much more glamorous than it really is. It's really easy to hear what we're doing or look at an Instagram feed and go, oh my God, that life looks perfect. I want to do that. There's always trade-offs with every lifestyle, you know? And while this works for us, it's not necessarily for everyone's, because some people might think, oh, I love traveling. I wish I could just do that for years on end. I'm like, you'd be surprised the things that you kind of miss. You talking about that feeling of home and how important that is. A lot of things we take for granted, you know? So it's you want to kind of maybe adjust those expectations and really kind of look into stuff and really be well-researched. It's not something you want to just, flung yourself into. And also, we want people that maybe want to have a home, so that way we can keep house sitting. We can't have everybody being full-time house sitters and digital nomads.
Yeah.
For sure. And so we've got your podcast, we've got the website, and everything I'll leave below. But where can we find you guys?
Yeah, everything's just on our website, alternativetravelers.com. Our podcast is on there. Our books are on there. We have a book on house sitting, the house sitting handbook. And then we also have a book, the Madrid Vegan Guidebook. Obviously, we could talk about Madrid forever. And so that's why we wrote that book. But also, I'm most active on Instagram at Alternative Travelers. That's pretty much the best place, really, to connect.
Alternative Travelers with one L.
One L.
I don't know if it's different. I know
true.
in the UK it's two L's.
I think
travelers.
we're UK English. So I was going to mention that. I'm like, Traveler, I think your website's spelt wrong. But it is one L. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really important to know. Alternative Travelers
One L.
with one L.
American
spelling.
You guys and your imperial system.
I wish it wasn't.
I'm with you on that. I hate that I have to think in inches. It's very inconvenient.
But thank you so much for coming on the show. And we touched on so much. So if anyone does want to learn, your books look amazing, especially the Madrid guide. I was looking at that and the pictures of the food on the website. So we can catch you all there. Thank you so much for coming on and having a chat. Really appreciate it. And I hope you guys stay safe in Buffalo. And I look forward to traveling resuming so we can continue house sitting and continue slow traveling.
Seriously. Well, thank you so much for having us. It was super fun.
Thank you for having us. This was great.
Thanks, guys. Speak to you soon. Welcome to the end of the episode. Thank you so much for listening the whole way through. And thank you again to Sam and Veren, who were amazing guests and an absolute pleasure to talk to. I've put the main places you can find them in the show notes, including their podcast. As a reminder, next week, the episode will drop. That will be the official intro to the Plant Paradigm podcast. And then a week after that, I have the amazing Dara Hayes, aka DJ Tiger Lily, coming on and having a great conversation. The episode will cover so much, so I cannot wait to share it. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a rating. It really helps out. And if you want to see snippets and the video form, I've got the link in the show notes on that URL genius hyperlink, but also on YouTube, the Plant Paradigm podcast, it should be called now. If you are watching on YouTube, hi, how you going? Nice to see you there. Please like, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff. And if you're listening, a review helps us out so much. If you think you got great value out of this episode, please head over to Sam and Veren's Instagram or Facebook. Let them know. Let us know on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, whatever you like to use the most. But that is all from me today. Stay safe, stay happy. Much love.